Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all having a wonderful week, and I have to say thank you so much for your support on the last video where I was having a more or less controlled mental breakdown.
Oh yeah, controlled my butt. You embarrassed us both.
So a question I have been getting recently over and over again is, how do you start if your end goal is to become a carrier with your own authority? How do you start in this market? What is the best plan to have? So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. Ready? Let's go! Well, you guys know that I cannot start any video without going over the announcements first.
But why?
First, as a lot of you know, the dispatching course is finally out. The link to that dispatching course is under the About page as well as in the new community post. I will also post the link down below, and I'll talk about the dispatching course at the end of this video, so if you're interested, stay tuned. Number 2, I have responded to a bunch of emails, but there are still a ton of emails that I have yet to respond to. And speaking of emails, something I have realized is that there are a lot of spammy accounts circling around pretending to be me. The only email I use is talkabouttrucking@gmail.com. If you're not emailing that email, I am not getting your messages. Okay, now back to the video. So a common question I have been getting over and over again is, how do you get started if you don't even have your CDL yet? Do you get your CDL and open your own authority and work under your own company name? Or do you start by working with someone else? Is there a right way? Now, I will be speaking from my experience, but still, this is just my opinion. And as always, I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about the topic in the comments below. So I'm a strong believer in the saying, slow and steady wins the race. This is especially true right now in 2022 because the market is just not what it was before. At this time, I believe that the best course of action is to first get your CDL, then work for someone, build up a safety net, get your own truck and trailer possibly, lease onto a motor carrier, and only after you have all of that experience should you go ahead and open your own MC and work under your own authority.
Wait. Weren't you always an advocate for working for yourself?
Yes, absolutely, and I still am. This industry is the love of my life.
Sorry, hubby.
But there is a ton of shadiness going on, and this shadiness is being amplified by the current craziness in the market. In other words, my advice is, while you shouldn't trust anyone but yourself, the reality is, without proper guidance in today's market, the chances of you making it on your own is slim. Let's look at this by getting into the process of things. First, you want to enroll in a good and reputable CDL school that will teach you the basics of operating a truck. The reason I say basics is because even the best schools cannot prepare you for what you will actually face on the road. Now, once you get your CDL, you will need actual measurable experience of operating that semi-truck in real-life situations. This is where applying for a company driver position might be a good idea. Now, I am not a fan of huge companies such as CR England or Knight Swift, but the reality is this will probably be the best option for you, especially in today's market. You see, smaller carriers like myself, for example, we use outside insurance companies to cover our operations. And 90% of those insurance companies are extremely iffy about new CDL holders. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, of course. For example, Progressive, they do not have a minimum of how much experience a driver should have before you can hire them. However, small carriers will still bypass this option because as you hire more new drivers, the more the insurance premium goes up. And in this market where the expenses are already high as it is, everyone's trying to minimize them as much as possible. Now, large companies like Knight Swift and CR England are self-insured. In other words, they use their own funds and credit to cover any potential claims, and therefore they do not need permission from some third party on whether they can hire someone or not. To top it off, large carriers will usually have an onboarding and training process, which can be very helpful.
And very shady.
Yes, there are some seriously ridiculous things I have heard about the training process and how shady it can be, but that is a topic for a different video. Now, a recommendation I have for you, if you're applying for jobs, make sure that the carrier is paying you on a cents per mile basis, not a percentage of the load, because in this market, If you're getting a percentage of the load, you are losing money. Now, after you drive for a big carrier and slowly build up that safety net, you will have the technical experience necessary to take the next step, which is getting your own truck. With your own truck, you can then lease onto a carrier's MC number. So basically, you will be an owner-operator running your own business without assuming as much risk as an actual carrier does.
Now, folks in California, please remember that this does not apply to you because California and the wonderful government here implemented the AB5 law, thus making you an independent contractor illegal. God bless California.
As an owner-operator, you will be responsible for your own expenses and you will definitely earn much higher than you would if you were a company driver. Now, in this market, I know there are still some shady practices where companies are trying to lowball owner-operators, but you know what? It's just about finding that right carrier. Once you get that experience of driving under someone else's authority, that's when you will be ready to actually open your own authority and get your own MC number. So I know that a lot of you are visual learners like me, so you know what? The best way to illustrate it is to go to the board. All right, guys, so I hope you can see this. I mean, my head is obviously blocking the board right now, but I will move out of the way. So what I want to illustrate for you guys today is a carrier's responsibilities versus a company driver or an owner-operator so that you understand why I'm saying it's better to just take it step by step and slow. So first, there are the carrier's responsibilities. This is not the full list because there are a bunch of things that are minute that just don't go on this list. But generally speaking, a carrier is responsible for taxes such as IFTA, IRP payments, state taxes 2290. A carrier is responsible for all filings such as UCR, BOC3, permits, and renewals. Compliance is also on the carrier, random testing program, insurance, electronic logging device, the maintenance of all the files, the audits, the DOT inspections, and of course the reputation is on the carrier. Next, as a carrier, you're responsible usually for having your trucks and trailers, the payments, everything that goes to that, making sure they're registered properly. A carrier is also, of course, responsible for small equipment like the GPS, the load board, the chains, like all those small details. Maintenance schedules is the carrier's job. Loads and billing, booking loads and billing the broker is the carrier's responsibility. And finally, all the expenses related to operating the business. Now let's do a magic trick because I'm so good at them. 1, 2, 3. Did it work? Okay, so these are the main risks the company driver takes. Number 1 is road safety, making sure you're safe on the road. Number 2, your driving record, making sure that, again, you're safe on the road and that you're not spoiling your driving record. Number 3 is roadside inspections, making sure you know what you're doing when an officer pulls you in for a level 1, 2, 3 inspection. Now, what are you going to learn as a company driver when you just first start out? You're probably going to start getting familiar with hours of service. You will learn about how to drive in different conditions on the road. You will learn how loading and unloading works. But in terms of other responsibilities, such as filing taxes or making sure that your filings are on time or compliance, truck trailer, all of this is done by the carrier. So you have the opportunity as a company driver to first learn the technical aspect of the job. Now, once you learn that technical aspect, that is when it's time to take the next step and start trying to learn the business side of the trucking industry. And the best way to do it, in my opinion, is to first lease on to a carrier who you trust. Okay, no magic trick here, but let's go ahead and look at what an owner-operator is responsible for. So once you lease on to a carrier, you become responsible for several things. Number 1, you become responsible for the expenses related to your operations, such as fuel, maintenance, all of that. And make sure that you are signing up with a carrier who provides a fuel card. You do not want to be paying full price for fuel right now. Number 2, you are responsible for all your maintenance, right? Maintenance expenses and making sure that your truck and trailer, if you have one, are maintained. Now, if you just have a truck and no trailer and you're taking the trailer from the carrier is responsible for that maintenance schedule. Next, of course, you are responsible for your equipment payments, your truck and trailer, and again, making sure they're maintained. Now, sometimes when you lease on, you might be responsible for finding loads. You might be responsible for finding loads if the carrier allows you to use the load board and find your own loads. The billing, however, is usually done through the carrier because it is under their MC number. Now, another thing that a lot of owner-operators are responsible for is the 2290 related to their truck. That will give the carrier the possibility of getting IRP plates for the owner-operator's truck. Finally, another thing is tracking IFTA. Now, IFTA filings are done by the carrier in either case because, again, even though you're an owner-operator and you have your own truck and your own business, you're still operating under the carrier's MC number. So the carrier is responsible for actually filing IFTA taxes, but you have to track them, or you can track them if the carrier is using some crappy ELD that doesn't track it for you. And then the carrier will usually charge the owner operator for the IFTA taxes. So you'll still be responsible for that expense. Now, another thing is, of course, the small equipment like chains, GPS. This is also the owner operator. So slowly, after you lease on to a carrier under their MC number, you are your own boss. You are an independent contractor unless you live in California and California decides that no, you're not, even though you are. Don't believe California. You are your own boss, an independent contractor. You will start learning slowly the ins of the business. After you become comfortable with this is when you can go ahead and become a carrier. And as a carrier, you'll be responsible for all of these things and maintaining files and records and going through audits and maintaining compliance documents and all of that. As an owner operator, a lot of that is still done for you, but you have a better understanding of how it is done because it is your truck, it's your equipment. So why is it that I do not recommend in 2022 for new CDL holders to jump in and become a carrier right away? Well, there are two main reasons. Number one, your insurance is going to be astronomically high. As a new CDL holder with new authority, finding cheap insurance will be pretty much impossible unless you're looking at a risk retention group, which is not accepted by brokers. Now, if you still decide that, no, I want to be a new CDL holder and I want to go ahead and open my own authority, make sure to age your DOT because at least that will help with insurance. There are some insurance companies that will take on a new CDL holder, but who doesn't have a new venture, meaning that their DOT is over a year old. That's why I keep on mentioning age that DOT number. The number two reason I don't recommend jumping in as a carrier if you're new to this industry is because brokers have the upper hand in 2022. The reality is there are so many carriers, so many trucks competing for the few loads that are available on the market. Brokers are not really motivated to work with someone who has a new authority. Now, this in of itself is not enough of a reason not to become a carrier. However, paired with inexperience and the steep learning curve on how to navigate this industry, this can be a recipe for disaster. Now, in 2021, I was of course more inclined to say, get your CDL and jump right in because the market was booming. Brokers were struggling. They did not have enough trucks to transport the freight available, and they would give that freight to anyone. As long as the wheels are turning and the truck is not falling apart, you are getting that load. Today, even the most experienced carriers and drivers are struggling beyond belief. So jumping in blind into this industry is definitely not something I recommend. Anyway, I hope that this was insightful. I hope you guys learned something new. I'm really curious to hear your opinions in the comments. They are always teaching me so much. That's why I love our community so much. But now I'm going to go into the dispatching course. So if you're not interested in that, I'll see you guys in the next video. However, if you're interested in the dispatching course, let me tell you just a little snippet about what the course is. It is $160 for 1 year access, and this course is basically going to teach you the basics of dispatching as well as IFTA, hours of service, negotiation, market insights. There are some downloadable documents there and calculators and spreadsheets, which is pretty nifty, but let me show you what it looks like on my computer. So I'm gonna share my screen just for a minute. So when you click on the link, this is the page you will see. It's going to show you the frequently asked questions that I got so far. What will you learn? Is this course applicable to Canada? Can this be applied to all different types of equipment? Then you see the pricing option. If you're interested, you can just enroll now. And then at the bottom, you'll see the curriculum. These are the actual classes here that are covered in this course. And of course, any questions. Now, let me show you what the curriculum actually looks like. When you purchase the course and sign in, you just click on the course and this is what it will look like. It will have the introduction right here and you just start each lesson. And once you complete it, you can move on to the next lesson. Now, something to note, there are going to be, for example, under this lesson, there will be some links. Then there are some documents, for example, right here on lesson 1, I'll take you through the contracts, and there are different types of contracts that I created, and they sound very funny. There are also downloadable calculators in certain areas. For example, in the specialized software, you will see there are different calculators you can use.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next video.